This video deals with the selling process. It's a very short video because the full class on the selling process has been broken up into very small parts for ease of download and ease of viewing. You'll note that the number of this class is 1704 FA. Well, the next one will be FB, FC, and so on. So just look for 1704 FA, FB, FC, and in that way you will get all of the material in the correct sequence. So each class is kept very short for ease of download and ease of viewing. So let's begin. The selling process is a complex activity and requires an in-depth understanding of customers and how they behave when making a sale. Customers are humans, and humans are complex and difficult to predict and difficult to understand most times. So the selling process is, by its very nature, a very complex procedure. The sales personnel have to try and gauge the mood of the buyer, try to understand what the buyer's requirements are, look at the overall environment in which the sale is taking place. So there are many factors to take into account when dealing with the selling process. It's a step of activities that must be undertaken by the sales force in order to encourage a sale. So it's a step in a series of processes that needs to be undertaken by the sales team. The sales team needs to identify the customer, they need to identify the customer's requirements, they need to have the qualities and the approach that is suitable to that customer, and they must try to close the deal, they must try and make the sale. Each element in the selling process needs to be carefully utilized, as it can make or break the sales chain. So each step is important. The comments that the salesperson makes must be carefully thought out and delivered in an affable and a friendly manner, perhaps. So not just the environment, but the salesperson's approach, the situation within the sales environment, perhaps even the wider issues that are happening in society may be relevant. So there's a lot of pressure on the salesperson to in a sense, get it right. Now what we can do is we can look at these various steps and these various approaches by just simply classifying them on a diagram. So we're imagining here the selling process. We're dealing with that, and we're trying to envisage what would happen and how sales personnel will go about making the sale. So first of all, the salesperson is prospecting. They're looking for the customers. Of all the people who enter perhaps the shop, they're looking for the customer who's of particular interest, the one who's more than likely going to generate the sale. So they're searching. But also, of course, the buyer is searching. The buyer is searching for the right product. The buyer is trying to resolve a need. Is trying to find a product that will satisfy a need. So the next one is to look for leads. Sometimes customers may be recommended, or perhaps a previous customer who had a good experience may recommend a new customer to the business. It could be all sorts of leads can be imagined. It could be that the particular organization is going through a large-scale marketing exercise, and if it is, customers may be drawn in, and in a sense they're generating the leads. The organization, through its marketing effort, is creating interest, and the customers one to the next are talking about the products and comparing their experiences, and in this way leads may be generated. So it's the enthusiasm of the organization and of the staff that may be the originator of the various leads. The salespeople, once they've identified potential customers, there is a pre-approach. They must observe the customers and consider their behavior, consider their demeanor as well. Can they afford the product? Can they relate to the product? Is it a product that suits them as they're currently presented? So there's in a sense, a pre-analysis before an approach is made, an approach to the customer. So the sales staff must try to measure and gauge and try to work out whether the customer is likely to purchase the product or not. So it's just by making observations. And finally, number 4, it's the approach itself. How is the approach done? Is it done in an over-friendly manner? Is it done in a professional manner? It depends on the circumstances. If it's a family with young children, then the approach may be very informal. If it's a business person who looks like he or she is in a hurry, the approach may be different. So the approach must be suitable for the likely customer. Then try to work out what are the needs of that person. What does the person want? What product will suit that person? Sometimes when we buy products, we may be over elaborate. We may buy the product that's got everything, that's got all the facilities. We don't need all the facilities. We only need some of them. So it's trying to assess what the customer needs. And if the customer is on the margin of being able to afford it or not, then perhaps stepping back in terms of functionality may generate a sale because the product is cheaper. But the customer mustn't be left to feel that the product is somehow second rate or inferior. It simply means the product ideally suits that customer in terms of what it's got. So it's a question of trying to assess the needs of the customer and trying to work out what product best matches those requirements. Then there's the presentation of the product. And likewise, the buyer, in a sense, is presenting him or herself as a buyer. They are presenting that they can perhaps afford the product, or they can relate to this product. It's a product that they need, they want, and it fits in with their lifestyle and so on. So there's a two-edged presentation. The organization is presenting their product and their ideas, and likewise the buyer is presenting his or her own requirements and presenting himself or herself as a likely purchaser of the product. Then the product should be assessed to see if it meets the objectives. Is the product genuinely of interest to that person? Is it what the person wants? Is it what the person expects? Here there are several variables to take into account. The price of the product, the style of the product, the overall suitability of the product for the customer. And it's trying to assess the degree of correspondence between requirements and what the product is offering. If the objectives are met, if the product is suitable, and if the customer is broadly happy with the product, then it's trying to gain a commitment from the customer to buy the product. The customer may want to shop around a little more or need some time to reflect, which are all reasonable things to do. But as far as the salesperson is concerned, there's the possibility of losing the customer. This exercise in shopping round or reflecting may mean that the sale is lost. So there's a tension here, one between the natural and quite understandable desire on the part of the customer to reflect and think about the product and shop around and look for alternatives and so on. There's that on the one hand, and on the other hand there is the possibility of losing the sale. So there is this tension that must be resolved as well. And finally there's the follow-up. Follow-up is good for the organization. When a product is sold, particularly if it's an expensive product, the organization may wish to take details and follow up on the customer experience of using the product and how satisfied were they, and would they be prepared to recommend the business for sales to their friends and to their wider family. So it's trying to gain follow-up and trying to persuade the customer that there is good after-sales service, persuade the person that they are, in a sense, not abandoned or left on their own when they've bought the product. There is support from the organization. So this is the starting of the selling process. I said that this class was very short, and I meant that. You can see from the bottom right hand corner of the slide, I've only got 8 slides on this particular video. You should now go to the next video in the session in this class and see what it's got to say about this topic. But that's all I'm going to deal with here, so I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.